Imagine a wedding that looks perfect in every photo. From the outside, everything looks right. The photos are beautiful. The smiles are practiced. The vows sound confident. But inside your mind, there is a silence that feels heavy, not peaceful, not calm. It feels like your rational brain is slowly covering the voice of your heart. You tell yourself, this is what adulthood looks like. You tell yourself love is not always loud. Yet, somewhere deep inside, something feels missing. There is a truth that could save you from years of quiet loneliness, but most people only realize it when it is too late. Today, we are dismantling the psychology behind marrying someone you don't truly love. The fear of being left behind. It usually happens on a quiet Sunday night. You scroll past another engagement photo on Instagram, or you attend another wedding where a relative asks, "So, when is it your turn?" You don't break down crying. You don't feel a dramatic panic attack. Instead, you just feel a cold, quiet calculation starting in your head. You start doing the math. If I meet someone today, date for 2 years, and wait a year for the wedding, I will be 35 before I even start a family. And then the terrifying thought hits you. What if I spend those 3 years and it doesn't work out? I will be 35 and starting over from zero. That risk feels too high. This is the reality of anuptophobia. It makes you believe you don't have the luxury of time to date for love anymore. You stop looking for a connection that moves you, and you start looking for a connection that fits the schedule. It is like going grocery shopping when you are starving. You stop caring about what is delicious, and you just grab the first thing that will stop the hunger. You aren't choosing a person. You are choosing to stop the clock. Safety as a drug. If you grew up in a home where love was unpredictable, chaotic, or conditional, you likely learned early on that intensity equals danger. You meet someone now who offers zero sparks but total predictability. And while a part of you feels bored, a deeper part of you feels an overwhelming sense of relief. This is not you settling in the lazy sense. This is your nervous system finally exhaling after holding its breath for decades. Your brain is prioritizing regulation over romance because, for a survivor, boredom feels like a luxury you never could afford. It is like spending years fighting in a trench war and finally finding a concrete bunker. The bunker is cold, grey, and has no windows. But for the first time in your life, no one is shooting at you. You mistake this lack of threat for love. But eventually, the war ends. And you realize that a concrete bunker is a great place to survive, but a terrible place to actually live. The good on paper trap. Logic versus emotion. You look at your partner and see a checklist of everything you were told to want. Stability, kindness, a good job, family approval. Yet, when they touch you, your body does not respond. In fact, it might even slightly pull away, creating a confusing war between your logical mind and your physical instincts. This happens because your prefrontal cortex, the logical planning part of your brain, is trying to override your limbic system, which governs emotion and attraction. You are trying to think your way into feeling, convincing yourself that a smart decision will eventually turn into a passionate one. It is like trying to admire a painting solely because it fits the dimensions of your wall perfectly, even though the image itself makes you feel nothing. You can stare at it every day and tell yourself it is a good painting, a correct painting. But art, like love, isn't meant to be analyzed for its utility. It is meant to move you. Attachment styles. Confusing familiarity with love. You might think you chose your partner freely, but often, your history chose them for you without you even realizing it. You feel a magnetic pull towards them, not necessarily because they are good for you, but simply because they feel familiar. Please understand, this does not mean you are broken. It means your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, It seeks patterns. In psychology, this is driven by your attachment style, which is the emotional blueprint you built in childhood to survive. If you grew up having to chase your parents for affection, you might marry someone distant because chasing feels like love to you. It is like a person who has only ever lived in a dark cave. When they finally step into the sunlight, they don't feel happy. They feel blinded and scared. So they run back to the dark. Once you understand this blueprint, you can start to spot the warning signs that you are settling for a pattern, not a person. 7 signs you are settling. The most dangerous thing about settling is that it rarely looks like a disaster. In the beginning, it usually looks like maturity or common sense. You find yourself in a constant battle where your logical mind lists all the right reasons to stay, while your stomach ties itself into knots every time they walk into the room. If this is happening to you, know that this physical reaction does not mean you are ungrateful, demanding, or difficult. This is your body using somatic markers, physical signals sent by your nervous system to warn you about the truth your conscious mind is too scared to admit. You might notice that relief feels stronger than excitement, or that you feel lighter and more like yourself only when they are not around. It feels like wearing a pair of shoes that are just half a size too small. You can still walk, you can run, and you can even smile. But every single step hurts just a little bit more than it should. And when you ignore that subtle pain for years, it transforms into something much heavier than just discomfort. The hidden cost. Loneliness in marriage. We often think loneliness is the feeling of being alone in an empty room. But the most crushing kind of loneliness happens when you are sitting right next to someone. You share a bed, you share meals, and you share bills. Yet you feel like you are living on a completely different planet from your spouse. This is not a failure of your character. It is a natural biological response to what psychologists call emotional deprivation. Humans are wired for connection, not just presence. So when your need to be seen is unmet, your brain enters a state of preservation, similar to freezing or hibernation. You stop sharing your real thoughts, your weird jokes, and your deepest fears, because you have learned that they will not be received. It is like starving to death while sitting at a banquet table full of plastic food. Everything looks perfect and real from the outside, but nothing on the table can actually nourish you. The sunk cost fallacy, why we stay. If you realize you are in a loveless marriage, the logical choice seems simple: leave. But psychologically, leaving is not just a breakup. It is an admission that the last decade of your life was a mistake. This is where your brain plays a brutal trick called the sunk cost fallacy. Your mind looks at the years you spent, the money you saved together, the shared friends, and perhaps the children, and it whispers, "You have already paid so much into this. You cannot let it all be for nothing." It feels like sitting at a gambling table when you are losing. Logic says you should walk away to save your remaining money, but fear tells you to keep playing just to win back what you lost. You aren't staying because the relationship has a future. You are staying because you are terrified of admitting that the past was a mistake. 3 outcomes. Contrary to what most people think, a loveless marriage doesn't always end in divorce. Usually, it settles into one of 3 specific outcomes. The companionate marriage. This is the path of peace. You accept the lack of fire and decide to build a partnership based on friendship and logistics. It is stable, functional, but entirely colorless. The second outcome is the silent hell. This happens when your suppressed needs turn into resentment. You start to hate the way they chew, the way they breathe, the way they exist. The home becomes toxic because of a suffocating layer of contempt. And the third outcome is parallel lives. This is the most common tragedy. You stay married, but you become strangers living under the same roof. You have your world, they have theirs, and you only meet in the hallway to discuss bills or kids. You are ghosts haunting the same house. The roadmap. So if you see yourself in this video, what do? There is no single right answer, but there is one truth. You cannot logic your way out of a feeling. If you choose to stay, it requires a radical honesty. You must stop pretending and start building a real friendship, stripping away the roles of husband or wife to see the human beneath. But if you choose to leave, know this. The pain of leaving is sharp and terrifying, but it heals. The pain of staying in a loveless marriage is dull and chronic, and it only gets heavier with time. It is better to break your own heart once by leaving than to let it be slowly suffocated every single day for the rest of your life. Life is too short to be lived in the gray zone. So, if you see yourself in this video, please take a deep breath and be kind to yourself right now. You are not broken, and you are not ungrateful just because you feel empty inside a life that looks perfect from the outside. Your body is simply telling you a truth that your mind has been too scared to admit for a long time. It is okay to acknowledge that the safety you chose has come at a very high price. Remember, the scariest thing in life is not being alone. The scariest thing is disappearing while you are still alive. You deserve to be the main character in your own love story, not just a safe background actor in a play about stability. If this video spoke to you, please hit the like button to help this message reach others who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more psychology-based stories that tell the truth. And I want to ask you a question in the comments below. Do you think people stay in loveless marriages more out of fear of the future or out of duty to the past? Thank you for watching.